Patrick, mettila in mezzo Patrick, palla nostra, Suso, tira Alessio, Suso, tira, perché non tiriamo? Ma perché non tiriamo? Gol! Alessio Romagnoli, gol! Alessio Romagnoli! Alessio! Il gol del capitano ancora all'ultimo, come Gilardino!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host today, Anthony Torgrud. We had quite the mix-up as far as our lineup for guests today. It was originally going to be, obviously, the three of us, Oliver, myself, and Maddie, but then I canceled because I had something to do, and then Ollie canceled because he got the flu. So then I rescheduled for later in the day, and Madison was flexible enough that worked for him. So it's just Maddie and I today. No worries, though. It's going to be a fun one. We got a lot to discuss. A lot of crazy things going on in the club right now. But first, of course, follow me on Twitter at Torgert45. And Madison, go ahead and plug yourself as well.
Yeah, we definitely have an interesting episode this week. Lots of drama surrounding the club. You guys can go ahead and follow me at Madison_DT. And by the way, thanks for the 4 people who followed me last week, because I now have 403 followers. So we're going places.
Well, I got to get 4 people to unfollow you, then send you back underneath. So yeah, I guess we'll just dive right into it. We'll just start with, well, no, let's not start with the coach. Everyone's aware of what's going on there. We'll start with the game. Talk about some shitty and happy moments from this weekend, because we got a win, but pretty far from convincing, if you ask me. Just to paint a picture for anyone who didn't get to watch the game, 4 red cards, 2 per team, 1 on the bench per team, and there were 12 cards total. There was a Genoa goal from a free kick that Reina, who started over Donnarumma because he got sick in the warm-ups, he spilled it. He caught it in his hands, and then I don't know what happened, just went through it and through his legs and then into the net. So we went down 1-0 in the 42nd minute, around that time frame. Things were looking bleak. Maldini and Boban were in the stands, and the camera panned to them multiple times. They were throwing their hands up, speaking like angry Italians. Don't know what they were saying, but they were pretty fed up with what they saw. At halftime, Maldini left, reportedly to make a phone call saying, "Get ready, we're sacking Giampaolo." Now, Boban stayed, and in the first 11 minutes of the second half, we got 2 goals. And that sounds really exciting, but it's not quite the picture it doesn't quite paint the right picture. The first goal was Teo Hernandez with, a great run, a great near post shot that honestly was impressive that it went in. I was super stoked about it. And it shows his mentality as well, because he didn't celebrate. It was his first goal. He immediately grabbed the ball, ran back to the touchline. But the dubious thing about that one was it was from a foul. The Genoa team fouled us, and while everyone was complaining to the referee, we took it quickly and caught him off guard. It's kind of a shady thing to do, but it's definitely not illegal. Ref let it go. Most refs will call that back, to be honest with you, but this one didn't, and thank him for that. Helped us get the 3 points. And then right after that, there was a handball in the box that led to a penalty. Kessie put that away. I could rant about this all day, but Madison, I'll give you a shot. Let you do it first. First impressions, middle impressions, last impressions. What do you got?
So leading up to the game, as we do every week, we try and predict the lineups. In every prediction, Piatek was not starting. Piatek was not starting. I'm sorry, I have to go back to the lineup here, because I was shocked at the lineup. We had Piatek, Biglia. Biglia I was not so disappointed about because Benacer has been playing so bad. But Çalhanoğlu I was very surprised with, and same with Bonaventura, who did not play horribly. Neither did Duarte by any chance, but we'll get to that later. So it started with the lineup being super disappointing, with Piatek up top, and in the press conference, pretty much Giampaolo saying he's our goal scorer. Who else are you going to have score goals? Something along those lines. And he left Leao on the bench, who scored a fantastic solo goal last weekend, which is one of the best single-handed efforts I've seen from a Milan player in I don't know how long. Left him on the bench, and from the start, I think we all kind of had a feeling like, okay, this would be another Giampaolo game, stressful to watch. We might scrape by with the win. And that is exactly what we did. We scraped by. Super uneventful. Lucky to get the penalty kick. Pepe Reina saved the penalty kick in like the 95th minute?
93rd, 94th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got gifted all 3 points there. Gianpaolo got gifted, so he at least got 9 points in his Milan career. He has us 6 points off of Champions League place, or 5 points. So that is nowhere where we should be. I was wrong. We are less than 3 points away from Champions League. So if we win and everyone above us loses, we'll be in.
You said we're less than 3 points. Are we 2 points away from Champions League right now?
We're 2 points away from fifth, so I lied. We are 5 points away from Champions League. I'm sorry, man. It's late. You guys have been throwing me around on the schedule all day. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, it's 8 o'clock at night for Madison right now. So everyone give him a round of applause because it's late. I wouldn't want to record at 8 p.m. In fact, I would have laughed and told him to fuck off if he asked me to do that. So appreciate him being here. But you're right, dude. That lineup was ridiculous. It changed twice after they made the announcement of the official lineup. It changed 2 more fucking times. And Bonaventura was a huge surprise.
What was the first change? I know Pepe Reina was the second change.
Yeah, so the first one was, it was announced with Bonaventura as the center mid and Çalhanoğlu as the left wing. And then they flip-flopped that, which was fine, honestly. I think it worked out better with Bonaventura as the wing once Paqueta came on, who was, again, predicted to be starting in just about every lineup. I mean, I don't think I saw that alter at all. But you're right. Leao was supposed to start in all of them. I think on the day of, there was one that said Piontek was probably going to get the nod, but for the most part, everyone was saying Leao.
Yeah, I think I remember saying that. And Piontek, Leao just has the motivation that Piontek lacks. Mm-hmm. Piontek is the kind of striker. I mean, he's a classic number 9 where you have to feed him the ball. But most strikers, when they are not getting the ball, they will chase after the ball. And Piontek just does not seem to do that. This week, I did notice him dropping back into the midfield a little bit more. But that's one of the first times I've seen him do that. So I don't know if a new manager will be able to get more out of him or what his future holds with Milan, because he's a valuable player and he's almost too valuable to have on the bench.
Yeah, I agree. And in my opinion, it comes down to which coach we get, just based off the systems that the options we're being seen use. I think Leao actually suits Spalletti's system more, but we'll get into the coaching shit in a minute. But you're right. Piontek doesn't really track back, chase the ball. He started doing it today or Sunday. Or was it? It was Saturday. Jeez, I'm all over the place. I had so much shit going on today. But the problem with Piontek dropping back to do that is, like you said, he's a pure number 9. He's a poacher. He doesn't create his own chances. Now, we did see him do it a few times last year. There's no denying that. He beat some defenders and took some players on, but it's not often he does that. It's not his playing style. It really doesn't play to his skill set either. Leao does. He drops back. He's got these weird flicks that everyone likes to see with the feet. He dribbles. He's strong. He's 6'2". That dude is built. Milan posted a picture of him in the gym shirtless. That kid is shredded. And he was plowing people down, and that's actually what won us the penalty, was Leao breaking through doing that. So that was one of the really frustrating things, was that lineup. When we saw Çalhanoğlu start for the 11th consecutive game and play 11 times poorly. Yes, he got the first goal of the season, and yes, he earned the penalty for our second goal of the season, but outside of that, he didn't really do much. At halftime, I think that there was a team talk from the management, because Gianpaolo doesn't make halftime subs. That's not a common thing amongst coaches unless someone is doing absolutely horrendous or they picked up a knock and were able to play out the half. But he made 2. He took off Piontek and he took off Çalhanoğlu and put up Paqueta, and he put up Leao. And that's what gave us that 11 minutes of brilliance to just get 2 goals and win the game. Then, of course, there were the double red card, and Pepe Reina gave up a penalty and then saved the penalty. Pepe giveth, Pepe taketh. It was just a wild game all around. There were very few redeeming qualities, but as far as our offense goes, this was our best. We had 9 shots total, 7 on target. Prior to today, I believe we were averaging less than 1 per game because we had like 3 total, I think, in the season at that point. So we definitely improved substantially in this game. But we did play the 4-3-3, which we normally don't play, so that's also a bit worrying. Um, I mean that. So I guess we could just move on from the game and get into what immediately happened after the game.
Right.
Boban left as soon as the penalty was conceded. Boban left. He didn't stay to see it get saved. Maldini left at halftime. They both are really upset. Boban wanted Giampaolo out the week prior after Fiorentina.
Mm-hmm.
I did too. I think you did as well. I don't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
I have not been as vocal about it because I don't like to not that I have that much influence on Milan Twitter whatsoever, but I don't like to enter the feeding frenzy when people are calling for coach's head. I just like to sit back. I talk to you guys about my opinions, but I don't really broadcast them that much.
Yeah, and I totally get that. I'm not the same way, but I like to think I am. I get way more involved than I should in some stuff, but normally I'll give the coach the benefit of the doubt week after week after week. I did it with Mihaljevic. I did it with Montella for a while. I did it with Gattuso, really the whole season.
Mihalovic should not have been sacked.
He shouldn't have, and I stand by that to this day. We would have won a title, not a league title, but we would have won the Coppa Italia had he have been able to coach it. But regardless, whatever. It's 4 years ago now, 5 years ago, something like that. Jeez, it's been that long. Holy
I know,
crap.
dude. I was just thinking about that. He could have been our manager for another couple of seasons too.
Yeah, because he didn't take shit, and if it wasn't for Berlusconi, if he was our manager under the Chinese or right now, he would have done much better.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he wouldn't be our coach right now because he's battling leukemia, so hopefully he recovers from that.
He's still managing though.
I'm pretty sure he's not. I think he's going to the training ground and saying what's up and giving ideas, but officially, I don't think he's a title. I mean, he's still getting paid, obviously.
Ooh, I thought he was. I guess not. I thought he was on the bench week 1.
He was. He was on the bench the first 2 weeks, I think, wasn't he?
Okay.
And then that's when he found out he was sick, had to step down. And I think he still was at the last couple games, but obviously not in coaching capacity. He was just showing up, which is cool. I love that support for your team. That's awesome. But anyways, so the elephant in the room, we need a new coach. It's international break. We got about 13 days. When you listen to this, it'll be 12 days until our next game. That's enough time for a new coach to get hired and settle in with, I guess, the players that aren't that important because everyone who is on international break. But, a decent amount of players, get his training staff acquainted. Who's it going to be? Probably by the time we release this podcast tomorrow, this whole episode is going to be irrelevant because it sounds like things are moving quickly. But as of right now, it looks like Luciano Spalletti is the number 1 guy. Stefano Pioli is the number 2 guy. And then Rudy Garcia is a backup.
Seems kind of backwards there, doesn't it, with Pioli?
Yeah. Pioli is a step backwards in my opinion. I have no interest in him taking over. I have no interest in football if he takes over. I'll stop right then and there. That'll be it for me. I'll convert to a different sport, different club. I don't know what I'll do. I won't go to a different club.
You have to get that tattoo removed on your arm and everything.
Dude, both of them, yeah. I got a compliment on my arm today from a cutie at the gym, so that was sweet.
Good for you.
No, I told her to buy me dinner first.
Oh my god.
No, I already have her number. She's we don't need to talk about this, whatever.
Yeah.
I honestly forgot we were recording. I thought we were just chit-chatting, and I was about to just go on a tangent, and then I looked up and saw it said, this call is recorded, and I was like, oh yeah.
That's so funny.
Where are we at? Pioli, yeah, fuck him. Go. What?
Yeah, I think Pioli is 100% a step backwards. He almost got relegated last season with Fiorentina. I think they got saved on the last day, right?
It was the last day, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think Giampaolo was a step backwards. I think Pioli will be a step backwards. Spalletti has had an amazing career. I think he finished 3rd with Roma once. Well, he finished second, third with third. because he got Inter into Champions League, right?
Yeah, with Inter, he finished fourth his first year and then third last year. His first stint with Roma, he finished second twice. His second
Right.
stint with Roma, he finished second, third, and I know he finished third with Udinese as well.
So the guy can clearly make stuff happen with not the best players. If he can finish third with Udinese, I don't know when that happened. Udinese used to be good, but they have
I
not
think
for
he had
so long.
Alexis Sanchez at the time, dude. It was like 08, 09 or something like
That
that.
was a while ago. So that's
Yeah,
when they were decent.
dude, it might have even been before that. I don't remember off the top of my head. No, it was before that because he won the 06-07 and 07-08 Coppa Italia with Roma. I also won the 2007 Super Cup with Roma. So, dude, he
Okay.
won 3 back-to-back trophies. None of them were, league titles, but the man knows how to win. He's a proven winner. Even when he was at Zenit, that's where he was at after he left Roma the first time. He won like 2 consecutive Russian Premier League titles, brought them their first ever Champions League round of 16 appearance. And then I think he did like 3 more years and got like second and third in those, and they sacked him for not winning the title, which is just fucking ridiculous to me, but whatever.
When a small club thinks they're big and they can sack their manager for that.
I think they
It's
are pretty
cute.
big in Russia, to be honest. But
Oh, I thought you were talking about Roma.
no, Zenit, St. Petersburg.
Oh man.
Yeah, no. He resigned. I can't remember if he resigned the first time or second time, but I know there was one time he got sacked because there was like a string of like 7 games where he did pretty poorly, I think.
That was at
Um,
the beginning of the season too.
yeah.
That
Uh,
was with when what's the Atlanta United's coach? Frank DeBoer was at Inter.
yes. You're right. Yeah. God, dude, coaches change all the time. It's
I
ridiculous.
know, and especially
Um,
with, I feel like since Ancelotti left, we have not been able to find a secure manager, and I think that
we
bringing
had
on
Allegri win
Spalletti,
us a title and get us a second. Yeah, Allegri had
he left after 2.5 years, so we have
no
not had
after
stability.
3.5.
3.5. Okay, so that's somewhat decent,
Yeah,
but
because
still,
Allegri didn't do bad. He got a title his debut season with us, got second place, and then third place, and then was sacked halfway through the next one.
yeah.
But in the third place finish, that's a bit deceiving. We stole that third place from Fiorentina on the final match day, and we started that season real bad. Not as bad as we started this season, but I don't even think we were top half of the table going into the winter break, honestly. And I could be wrong. Don't quote me. That's literally just pulling out of the trenches of my memory. Um, but yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yeah,
But we
it's
magically pulled it. I think we went on like a 16 game winning streak or some bullshit
mhm.
and pulled it out of our ass. And then who was the other? Pioli. Yeah, Pioli's trash. He wasn't the guy that almost got relegated with Fiorentina though. That was Montella because Pioli resigned in January, I think. Now he got him in the position to where they should have been relegated at that point, but then what's his name took over Montella and just because I remember when Montella beat us, it was his first win since February, and I knew
Yeah.
that was with Fiorentina. So between January and February is when Pioli stepped down. I'm gonna say January 9th, just throwing it out there. Google it. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. Um, that's my sister's birthday. That's probably why I said it. But who's the other coach? Pioli was also at Inter as
Garcia.
well, right before that. But Garcia, you know, I don't like Garcia. I know he has a good record with Roma as well, right? Is it Roma that he was with?
Marseille and Lille and Roma.
And
Yes.
okay, I was gonna say I was like, I know there was a Serie A team. I really don't know anything about his time in the French league, and I should have looked him up
He
before
won
this
a
to be prepared.
title,
With
and
Marseille.
I think with Lille.
Okay.
Clearly,
I
we
know Marseille
are
won the title
very.
right before the season prior to PSG getting bought out and becoming a powerhouse.
Hmm.
I don't know if that was with him or not, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just not a fan, dude. Spalletti's the way to go. He's a proven Champions League guy. He's done it with multiple teams, multiple times. It makes no sense for us to not take it. The rumors are severance pay between him and Inter. He's asking for 5 million. They owe him 15 over the next 2 seasons, I believe. I thought it was 3 originally, but I guess it's just 2. It's till 2021. So Um, he
All
was
right, so
and they're saying no. I don't know. It seems to me like a game. Like they're offering him less. They're trying to meet in the middle, because you never say yes to the first ask, obviously. Um, and now it sounds like Milan's playing hardball, in my opinion, by even saying, we got this meeting with Pioli tomorrow. He's probably going to sign it right then and there." But the dark horse in this, Sampdoria just sacked UCBOD Francesco, so Pioli's more heavily linked with them. Do you think he would take a job with us, which is more difficult to earn Champions League and more strenuous throughout the season, or taking a job with Sampdoria, where it's much easier to just avoid a relegation? They'd be happy with that.
do you take a coach with the Dallas Cowboys or the Detroit Lions?
So I get the analogy you're trying to make, but I just like absolutely despise the Cowboys, so I'd pick the Lions.
Okay, Chicago Bears or the Detroit Lions. I mean,
Yeah, I get
you
it.
you pick the more storied club because one, he's going to get paid more.
Is he though?
Two,
I heard we'd only offer him 2.5.
that's one Sampdoria can pay him.
Oh, I guess I really don't know what Eusebio was making there.
Um, I think that he's just a pawn in this whole situation. I think that
Spalletti's the queen.
Spalletti, dude, you are just stealing the words out of my mouth. It's like I said it to you earlier.
Uh,
Yeah, and they're trying to create a little bit more need in this situation. So Spalletti takes a little more seriously and does not drag it out. If we do hire Pioli, this club is in full swing. Just we're going down, man. It's
yeah,
horrible.
I completely
Like,
agree with you.
and I don't want to be like one of the people to say it, but if Maldini and Boban hire Pioli, they have no place in managing a football team. Like, I'm sorry, you don't take step backwards. We've been taking step backwards since Allegri left, minus Mihalovic. And to fire him was a step back. We had a few bright spots, but since then we've done nothing. We won a Super Copa in Saudi Arabia, which is cool, I guess. It was cool to see us lift a trophy, but that didn't get us Champions League. That didn't win us much money, maybe $1 million, $2 million, if that. You know.
Yeah, I
So
mean it's not a real. I mean it is a real trophy, and Italy takes it a lot more serious than the other leagues. But everyone else just kind of views it as like the preseason trophy.
right,
It's
even though we played for it in January,
right, yeah, because Italy's weird, and not even playing it in Italy, but whatever.
they can come play it in Detroit anytime.
Honestly, that'd be sick. If they played it stateside, I'd go wherever it is because that would
Right,
be a competitive match.
right. We might be able to get some media passes. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Um,
It's
how
almost
do you
like we got
think?
the hookup.
Yeah, right. How do you think this whole situation is going to play out?
I think you hit the nail on the head there with your cute little chess reference, as I just make my own. Um, but it's it's gonna be Spalletti, man. There's no reason to go any other way. It sounds like Boban and Maldini are really pushing for it. They know this is the only guy available right now within our price range that can actually give us a fighting chance at Champions League right now. And it's early enough in the season to where we're not too far gone, and it won't be this ridiculous uphill battle. Spalletti can overcome a 5 point deficit to get us up in the places. But if this goes on longer, and then it happens in January, and we're like 12, 14, 15 points outside, dude, it's so much harder. And we all know that. We saw it with Gattuso when he took over halfway and almost get us there, just barely securing Europa League, and it's a tough gig. So I think that's the route everyone wants to take. We could get him on a wage he already accepted at 5 million euros for 2 years. That's 5 million euros per year for 2 years, so 10 total. And there was a lot of confusion by Sky Sports about that today being Monday. I'm sure that'll be clarified by Tuesday when everyone's listening.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. You never know with them. But I think he's going to go for it, and he's doing this because he has the upper hand over Inter. He could demand a fee. Anything less than his total makes financial sense for Inter overall. The one
Right.
thing is they're paying him. I don't know if they pay managers weekly or monthly. I know they pay the players monthly, but it could be weekly or monthly for the manager. I don't know, but whatever it is, paying him in installments is cheaper on the current bill than paying him his lump sum up front.
Yep.
So that could be one way they're looking at it, which is why they offered 2.5, I believe, was their counter to his 5 that he demanded. But I mean, he's got the upper hand. It benefits everyone involved. Inter save money in the long run. Um, Spalletti gets a job, and we get a coach. Like it's a win-win-win. So I think we're really pushing for that. They're waiting for some kind of deadlock or a break in the deadlock between Inter and Spalletti, and to put a little pressure on Inter to get things done because they know they have 12 days to figure it out. We don't want to wait 12 days, so that's when we say, "Yo, we got this shit with Pioli. We're gonna sign his bum ass up if you don't get this over with. We're gonna do it tomorrow." So now they're gonna be working through the night, and hopefully they can reach an agreement. And I wouldn't be surprised if Spalletti concedes a little bit and maybe gets like 3 or 3.5, maybe 4. Meet in the middle. And
Right.
that's typically how negotiations go with a severance package like this. Because ultimately, if he wanted to, he could take the next 2 years off. He's making wine in his winery wherever he's at, and he's having a good ass time making 4.5 million euros a year to do nothing. He's taking a sabbatical. That's the best type of sabbatical you could take. I'd do that for a tenth of that. I'd quit my fucking job today if someone offered me more than that. But um, so I think he's going to do it, man. I think we're going to get Spalletti. He plays the system that Ollie was preaching to us last week, which is a little interesting, the 4-2-3-1. And I think we're going to see a Biglia Benacer and then um, Bonaventura, Paqueta, and Suso in the attacking mid and wing position. And then I think Leao up top because he's a center forward. And that's honestly how Spalletti played. He did it with Totti. That's how he introduced him really into his new role. Totti used to be a trequartista. Then all of a sudden he's a center forward under Spalletti. And that's when they won second place. So I can see him doing that. The tracking back, the creativity, the strength, plus having your wide creative wings, plus having an attacking mid, plus having 2 defensive mids. Like, dude, I think it'll work. And I think he's the coach to implement it and make it happen. And I feel like the players will be more receptive to it as well because they know what he's done. Whereas Giampaolo was appointed and no one was really excited. They had some ideas. They thought, man, maybe this will be good. And I kind of drank the Kool-Aid towards the end as well. At first I was pissy. But everyone's like, all right, attacking football, this is sweet. And then when it didn't work out in preseason and all, I think that's when he lost the players. And it's just, this is accumulation of that.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I want to see him. I think that he's going to play everyone at their natural positions. But I'm going to take a step back here and go back to the Genoa game. Did you notice how much the game changed when Paqueta came on for Çalhanoğlu and Leao came on for Piontek?
Yeah, dude, that was it. That was our 11 minutes of brilliance, and it started right then and there with those 2 players. And that I tweeted that, and I was pissed off because I said these subs are fantastic. My issue is they never should have been subs; they should have been starters. And I don't think there's a person on earth that disagreed with that going into the game, and there's definitely no one who disagreed with that after the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it should have been, and everyone saw that in the projected lineups. Apparently, you don't just make a projected lineup up. You can if you're Isaac Muller, but if you're a real journalist, what you do is you go to the training ground and you watch what they do in practice. No, Isaac doesn't make shit up. I just like to pick on him. But they saw that in practice. So why he changed it last minute, nobody really knows. But his strongest 11 that he could possibly do under Giampaolo with Milan right now was that team after the subs, and of course with Donnarumma in and Musacchio, not Duarte, who you're right had a great game. He actually did really well, and I was impressed. So honestly, maybe Duarte over Musacchio, who tends to make 2 big mistakes a game.
Yeah. I'd like to see Duarte play a little bit more. I think that it's worth, especially heading into the Lazio game, I think, which is in 2 weeks, so we have another game before that. Letting him play again because why not? I think he played in another lower league.
It makes
team.
sense, because he's not getting a call up to the Brazilian national team, I
Hmm.
think. He'll be there to get practice, and so will Musacchio. I don't think he's getting called up for Argentina, but I don't know. I think it might be. Those are the two that are going to practice the most. Obviously, Romagnoli's going to start, so you don't have to worry about him, even though he's on the call up. But because the other two are there, I think whoever takes over is going to see a lot of them and figure it out, and we'll
Yep.
see who really the best is. I don't think Spalletti's the type of guy to look at what past managers have done with the club and say, okay, these are clearly the best players. He's going to figure it out himself and be able to make that call. I'm not too worried
100%.
about that. I think he could figure it out. So,
Yeah, I guess only time is going to be able to tell. Hopefully, we make it work.
yeah, I mean, and I'm still preaching the Spalletti Kool-Aid. I refuse to believe that any of the alternatives are real names. You've seen some other ones. Ranieri as another Claudio Ranieri. He was at Roma for a little bit, did pretty bad. Obviously won Leicester the Premier League title. That was huge, but then wasn't too hot after. But he was just being called a ferryman, a caretaker for the end of the season,
Hmm.
and that's not the way to go. You don't get a ferryman manager 8 games into a season, 7 games
No, you
into a
don't.
season. Like you get someone like that halfway through, 2/4 or 2/3 of the way through, like that's when you pick that. So I don't think that's a real thing. And that was mentioned last time when Gattuso was supposedly confirmed sacked in April and then magically made it out the season. So um, I don't know. I think Spalletti's the only real name, and this meeting with Pioli is more so to put pressure. And I don't think we offer him a real contract right away. I think it's more to sit down, hear what he has to say about his ideals, and then okay, we'll be in touch. One of those things.
Yeah, let's hope for the best. I think everyone in the universe that supports Milan is hoping for this situation to pan out for Spalletti. And maybe 2 years he gets us to Champions League and he really impresses, so we re-sign him and make him a longer term manager. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, a 2-year contract I think is a fair
Right,
length. Um,
100%.
But I think a 2+1 sort of deal, if we get Champions League, we'll give you a 30 or something like that is nice because that's something that Inter didn't do. They gave him a no, they gave him a contract from whatever, not last season, the season prior, whatever year that was that 17-18?
Hmm.
Yeah, they gave him a contract from 17-18 until 2021. So maybe there was a renewal in there because that's abnormally long. But after his second year, and improved upon his Champions League finish. Their first time doing it in then 6 years, and then he did it again and finished third last year. No, no, he did get fourth again, huh? Because Atalanta got third last year.
Yeah. Did they?
Yeah,
I thought it finished the other. I thought Atalanta got fourth.
I'm pretty sure they got third, but regardless, I mean third or fourth, whatever, one of those. Um, but Conte had already been appointed by then, so dude, they were done with Spalletti before the season was even over, and
Hmm.
wrongfully so. I mean, yeah, he had that one's poor spell. They were pretty high up, and then dropped significantly, and that's how we were even in the race, really. But they never were out of it, even though they dropped on points. They were always kind of in the race. So I don't know. I think they did him dirty, man, and that's partially why he's holding out for a bigger severance, just to kind of get that last little jab in there on him.
Yeah. I told you guys earlier, I feel like Inter might go slow on this just to kind of screw us over. But then you brought up the point that they'll be able to save some money. So I get both sides of it. I mean, if I was AC Milan and Inter was like, hey, we want Gianpaolo, I'd be like, oh, you do you? Let's see what, let's
Yeah.
kind of drag this out and see how long you can wait.
Right.
So,
Because it doesn't benefit them to have us get a great coach immediately, when we have all the season to build. Dragging it out for them is best case scenario. They want to get the deal done too, but you're right. Waiting until like the last couple of days, that's best case scenario for them. And if we do pick, a worse manager, then competitively that's good for them also. But
yeah,
I think ultimately they want to get this shit taken care of, get it over with, and we'll be able to move forward with hopefully Spalletti. You know.
Yeah, that's. I think we got quite the list of questions here. And honestly, guys, we apologize. We did not know that we were going to record tonight. It just happened that before Anthony went to the movies,
I
we
haven't
had
gone to
an
the movies.
hour. You know what? Aren't you going to the movies?
Oh, I thought you meant like before I went earlier in the day. No, I'm going this evening. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So
Okay.
we did not throw up a tweet until uh, about an hour ago, and we already have 12 questions, I think, or maybe was that 14? 14 questions. So thank you. Um, I guess first question we'll start with Joseph Kelvo. Discuss the pros and cons of Gianpaolo versus Pioli.
Um, that's actually good. At first, I thought it was Spalletti versus Pioli. The pros of Giampaolo.
I take
um,
Gianpaolo
I,
because
I do too.
he's a mid-table manager. He one, he's already with the club. You don't want to bring in a manager who's been fighting relegation battles in the past to come in the beginning of the season, 7 games in, and start from scratch because I feel like that's not going to end well with either party. Uh, so pros, Gianpaolo has been with the squad. He knows the players. Cons of Gianpaolo, he doesn't know the players good enough because he doesn't make the right decisions for starting lineups. Pros for Pioli, he doesn't know the squad. He'll have a fresh start. Cons is he's a terrible manager.
Right, yeah. No, I'm looking at. I just pulled up Pioli's Wikipedia page, and his career winning percentage is 37. That's pretty low.
I
That's
thought
like
it was
really low.
51%.
That's his best winning percentage with an individual club. This is total from his entire managerial career.
I
Um,
mean,
and
guys,
that
I'm great
51
at FIFA.
is
Hire
with
me.
Inter.
Football manager's my shit. I can, not get relegated.
Right? Um,
Um,
yeah, but and even that dude, he that 51.8%, he only played 27 games or coached 27 games for Inter. You know, so it's not like he really had that big of a. It's less than a full season's worth of, um, I guess, games to choose from. Dude, Palermo, he only coached 2 games before getting sacked, but he lost both, so he had a 0. He actually did have a better than that. He had a 62.5 for Modena back in 2006, but again, he only coached 16 games. So, I mean, it's like these aren't good numbers. You know, everything we're seeing is bad. So that's why I looked at the overall, where he's coached 631 games and he's won 234 of them.
God, that's horrible.
Yeah, it is. It's real bad. That's 37%. uh,
Um,
so
Joseph goes on to ask, do you think the root cause of Milan's problem is coaching or is there an underlying problem?
I think both. I do. Well, I guess he's asking the root. The root is an underlying problem. It's the mentality, and it started years ago with the exodus of all of our champions that Berlusconi decided to start. When we lost all those players, and it took a few seasons. When we lost them, we had only players that have never won anything, and that mentality is hard to come by. You know, you if you listen to someone like Fabio Capello talk about his time at Milan, he took over the club and won the season undefeated, you know, in his first year. And that was because he had a team full of champions that were coming off of Arrigo Sacchi for years. You know, he had people that knew to play, and he tells a story of signing a few young new players, and they were having fun in practice, and they weren't like, you know, they're goofing off, and Van Basten, Ruud Gullit, and Rijkaard, the entire Dutch trio, went up, confronted the new players, and said, "Here at Milan, we work hard. Knock this off." And then we went on to win the Serie A without losing a single game. We don't have anyone that behaves like that anymore.
No, we
You know, the
don't.
closest we have is Romagnoli, who I love. You know, it's my captain. I support him wholeheartedly, but he's never won anything but that Super Cup. So even though he may have that we work hard mentality, it doesn't sting as much. for a new guy coming in town. And I think that was part of why Gattuso worked so well, is because he did, and they didn't want to disappoint him. And you would think that it would be that way with Maldini being the sporting director, but he doesn't come around enough, I don't think. He's obviously there, but I don't think he interacts enough. He's not giving these anger-filled pep talks that Gattuso would do. Um, and it doesn't help that Giampaolo is a real hands-off coach, from what I've read and heard as well, that he doesn't talk to the players that often, that it's really his staff that does it. He more observes, takes notes, and then implements game plans, but his coaching staff that does most of the interaction with the players. And I think that's not a good style for a team that is young and needs nurturing. These, at the end of the day, these are boys. They're young boys. They're teens to mid-20s. And yes, they're adults, but they still kind of need that father figure, someone to kind of kick them in the butt when they're out of line and push them to do better. And I don't think they have that under Giampaolo. So I think that's a big part of it. And I know that's kind of long-winded, but I think
no, but it's kind of, I mean, as you were talking, I was like, well, I don't think I need to answer this question. But in a more simplistic form, it's like you either have players who have been champions, or you have a coach who's been a champion.
Mm-hmm.
And we have neither right now. So that's the problem. We have neither of them know how to really win and to go all the way and to know what it takes and how it feels. Except for the Supercopa, and that's not really that impressive. Sorry, but
no, I completely agree with you. Moving on to one of the other questions from Daniel Ahmad. He said, should Giampaolo be given more time? I think we both already kind of touched on that, so just an emphatic no all around, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Give him a little like on Twitter right now so he knows I read it. Moving on to the next one. This is kind of a question in jest. It's funny, but I like it. From W. Dendanda 2, he said, is Spalletti the best bald manager in world football? And
No.
who else? Who else has bald? Duh. I was like, there is a better baldy, but I can't think it. I was going to say Zidane, and I'm like, Zidane's not. Zidane's a fraud. Plain and simple.
Also, Bob Bradley, bald, better.
Bob Bradley, trash, dude. Get that out of here.
You say.
I think you said you don't say, and I was like, okay, sorry, I didn't realize it was sarcastic, and then I realized you said USA, and I was like, oh. Okay.
Oh my
god. All right, I'll let you read out the next question. Go for it.
Let's see. Let's scroll through here. You guys asked us so many good ones. Arif Fernando. I apologize if I said that wrong. So, what will Milan do now? Why Giampaolo must out? So why shouldn't Giampaolo must be out? And why are so many coaches in and out of Milan, whether it's usually the coach, the players, or the management? We kind of answered that first one before. Why are so many coaches in and out? I feel like being a historic club, we want instant gratification. And I feel like, especially today, there's so much media and social media attention that clubs want a good perspective. And so, 20 years ago, coaches were not getting fired for not making Champions League. They would go back, they would buy the players that the coaches wanted and try and go again. Now the club is buying the players, and the manager has to work with those players. It's pretty rare that clubs will buy the players that managers want, if that makes sense. And so there's like a weird limbo phase that if you're not one of the top teams, you are in the bottom half, and you buy players that must work with your manager. And unfortunately, that's what kind of AC Milan is in right now. We're in that rut, and we are having a hard time getting out. And hopefully we do, because this club deserves to be winning Champions Leagues. And eventually I want to be able to play the Champions theme song for the podcast. So hopefully we get there.
Yeah. But I think you're right about the social media. It really does put a lot more pressure. Makes the hot seat a much hotter, you know? Um, and historically, we have kept coaches for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Ancelotti was here for a while. Sachi was here for a while. Capello was here not that long, but a good while, you know. And we did that for a long time. It was really when Allegri got sacked, that's when that began. And it goes back to that exodus of the champions that we had. How many coaches have we had since Allegri left? Let's count them. We had Seedorf, we had Inzaghi, we had Mija, then we had Brocchi, then we had who came after Montella. Then after Montella, we had Gattuso. Then we got Giampaolo, and now we're getting ready for our eighth coach since 2013-14. That's fucking insane. It's not normal,
No,
especially
it's
for a
not.
club like this. When Zidane could keep his job for 3 years and then they want him back like 2 years later, that's pretty crazy for a guy whose career is based off Ronaldo winning for him.
Hmm.
Um, Sorry, I don't know why I get fired up about Zidane, but I do. Um, so yeah, I think you're right. You know, the media and results. Honestly, you know, the new managements. You don't take over a club and not want to do well immediately. You got to make a statement. The Chinese did it with purchases. You know, they bought 12, 13 players that first summer, and that was their statement. But results didn't come, so they changed the coach. Um,
Also changed the
Gattuso,
ownership.
honestly, yeah, well, they were just that's just a blimp in our history, man. That's so crazy to like look back on. But yeah, and then the new ownership came in and they're like, let's stay with Montella for a little bit. Didn't last. And they're like, Gattuso didn't last. Giampaolo didn't last. And you know, Elliot's point of view is we need to spend as little as we can, make as much as we can, sell for as much as we can, and do it as fast as we can. They're not going to do that
Um,
without results. They
the
need a
Ch-
better coach.
the Chinese hired Gattuso.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but then yeah,
They
then
didn't hire
then
Montella. They fired Montella. They
but
didn't hire
they
him.
kept him the first year, I thought, didn't they?
Correct. Well, they kept him for a half year
Yeah. They
because he
kept
had one
because
full year under Berlusconi, then a
that's
half
what it
year
was. You're
under
right.
Young Hung Lee.
Yeah, Young Lee. Yep, you're right. You got me.
Dude, the every time I think of that ownership group, I think about the press conference where they announced him, and there's this kid walking around who he looked like he was like 19 years old, traveled from China with them. And the kid is wearing jeans and a wrinkled white shirt. And I'm just
Oh
like,
yeah, that was his son.
yeah, I'm just like, bro, you are being released as the child of the owner. Put
Yeah, I
yourself
mean,
together.
he was born into a wealthy family. You don't give a
Yeah.
shit about stuff like that. It doesn't matter. Um, let's see. Next question comes from Giovanni Scara 19. Why is Milan so cheap with coaches? Because we're trying to do shit on a budget. Kind of just touched on it there unintentionally, but Elliot needs to spend as little, make as much, and so they cut corners where they can on budget. That's honestly ultimately what it comes down to. Prior to that, it was because we were poor, we didn't have money. Um, Anything you want to
Well, we
expand on
did.
with that?
Berlusconi is just cheap.
Well, after Berlusconi, once Berlusconi started going downhill, then then he had no money.
Right. Um, no, I think you hit it on the head. We're just cheap and we don't want to spend money on a sorry, I'm reading another question as I'm talking. We don't want to spend money on a manager when we can spend the money on players, but I think it's become also clear that we need to spend money on a manager.
Yeah, I agree. The next question is RG Milano 15. Is Giampaolo an Inter secret agent?
I was
Um,
reading that question when I was talking.
it's a funny question, but you know it is worth asking because he's been vocal, you know, before joining us about how he was an Inter fan as a child and coaching
Hmm.
Inter is his dream job. But I doubt anyone would sabotage himself like this. You know, you did see it with Mourinho at the end of his career at United and a few other places with a few other coaches. But I don't think Giampaolo is doing that. He,
No.
yeah, that's crazy. But interestingly enough, that seems to be all we're looking for because both Spalletti and Pioli were Inter coaches, and no, Rudy Garcia was Roma. Never mind. So who knows? Maybe we're getting rid of the guy that actually cares about us, and we're bringing in a Inter secret agent. Who knows?
Right.
The next one from Zern0H, Arithbalaga Ponder. Just kind of giving us topics to discuss. Piontek's form, we touched on that. New signings and how much they've adapted. We didn't specifically touch on that, but we did go into detail about how Liao is the most important, how Teo scored great goal, things like that. So um, I think I speak for both of us when I say happy with how they've all performed, with the exception of Benacer's last game.
And Krunic, we've not seen much of Krunic at all.
Honestly, forgot he existed. I
That
totally forgot about that guy.
and I wonder why we bought him if he's just not going to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that was specifically a depth backup purchase, honestly. Um,
I mean, we got him
it,
for what, like 2.5 or 5 million or something, real cheap.
it was less than five, but I think it was more than two. I don't know, somewhere in the middle, three or four.
Okay.
Bonaventura, we did touch on him. That was great to see him come back. He looked good. He didn't look like he was still lingering from fitness or injury or anything like that. Was super dynamic. It was nice to see his link up play with Paqueta when he came on, with Liao, with Piontek as well. I mean, I think he's going to start moving forward. I don't see why we would bench him unless he needs fitness. Good. Okay. Cool. Conti or Calabria? I'm still Calabria, and he's had a terrible run of games under um, uh,
Paulo.
Giampaolo. God, why? I'm so over him. I can't even remember his name anymore. He's had a bad run of form, but he's still better than what we've seen from Conti.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a knock on Conti. It's just he's had 6 or 7 starts in his entire Milan career.
But honestly, no one has performed well under Gianpaolo except for a handful of players. So it's not like he's playing bad. The entire team is in bad form, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last question he asked was Gattuso versus Giampaolo. I'm Gattuso all the way. I would think I said Gattuso out around January, February, and that's when we started our great run of form. And I was like, okay, I take it back. Um, a- and I was okay with Gattuso leaving. I thought it was time towards the end of the season. But as soon as as soon as Giampaolo was announced, I said, no, this is bad. I was in for Allegri, Conti, and Sarri. Those were the guys that we were linked with at the time, which be fucking nice, but well out of our budget. We couldn't afford any of them, and I still don't think we could. But yeah, I wasn't for Giampaolo at all.
Mm-mm.
Awesome.
Me either. I thought it was just a step backwards.
And then next question is from Ahmed Buyumi97. Sorry if I butchered that, bud. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It's hard to pronounce that one for me. He said, anything positive about Pioli? Quick answer, no. Even Spalletti, I could see something positive about him, but Pioli, absolutely nothing. Totally agree with you. Have nothing positive about Pioli. I see a lot of positive about Spalletti, more than just something, but that's just me. Maddie, anything to add?
I see a lot of positive about Spalletti. Pioli, nothing. He's got a nice beard.
Yeah, he does have a better beard than Spalletti. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
They got the exact same haircut, top and bottom, and that was I was about to say Spiel or whatever his name. Pioli had a better bottom, but I'm not gonna say that. His beard is better. Um, all right. And then at BHY Ahmed said, "Don't you think that sacking a coach after 7 games is never a good idea?" No, I disagree with that. If you have lost 4 of those games like we have, and you're expected to be fighting for Champions League like we are, and you're going into a 15-day international break like we are, I think it's the perfect time to sack a manager who's underperforming. Um, if it goes beyond this, then I think you give him till January because there's, I mean, you got to give him time at that point. But I do think it's, for the harshest of performances that this is an option. But I mean, listen, we got 3 wins out of 7. But if it was like 3 good performance wins, I would say, okay, we saw some stuff, some brightness, we can move forward. But all 3 of our wins were complete shithouses, barring that one moment of brilliance against, I believe it was Verona, where Çalhanoğlu scored his open play goal. The other one was a penalty. That game was just terrible all around. Was it Sampdoria? I don't remember who he played.
I'm sorry. I just spaced out.
You're good. No worries. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with sacking him after 7 games. If they were good performances, I would say give him time. But all 7 games have been terrible from bell to bell, even the wins.
Minus the Torino game. That was a good game.
The Torino game. Oh, we had a good first half in Torino, didn't
Yes.
we? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I agree with that. But half of a good game out of 7 full games, that's not good.
No, not at
Doesn't
all.
work for me. Anything you want to add to that? I think that's actually our final question. I'm just
We
taking
have one
another.
from Taco Boy
We should get another.
at Taco Pro 15. If you scroll down and click more replies. I don't get why Gianpaolo didn't play Lucas Paqueta or Ante Rebic or Ray Krunic. Also, who would you guys pick? Marcelino, Pioli, or Gattuso? I picked Gattuso. He knows the team. I don't know either of the other two managers. I'm sorry. I've been looking up Pioli, and he's god awful. Marcelino, know nothing about. I just know that he won Copa del Rey last year. Yeah, last year with Valencia, which is, I guess, a feat on its own.
Yeah, I mean they beat Barca in the final. That is a big
Right.
deal.
Why doesn't he play Lucas Paqueta, Rebic, or Krunic? We have not seen Krunic play much at all, so I can't really speak on that. I just, like AJ said earlier, he has to be a depth signing. Rebic, I have no idea why. Every time he's a big body. Play him and Leao up top. They'll be bossing up that attack. We'll score goals on goals on goals. Paqueta, since he joined, every game he's played in, we have won, I believe, at least last season. Um, so why he doesn't play is beyond me. The guy is amazing. He dribbles. You could just see him out there already dribbling around players, making a huge difference in the first 11 minutes of the second half. He needs to be a staple in our team. Light years ahead of Çalhanoğlu in terms of skill. Hopefully he stays and Suso leaves. I just wanted to add to Suso part because I'm not happy right now.
No, I think you're spot on with the coaches and Krunic. Rebic, I think you're also spot on. I think he was specifically signed for the 4-3-1-2, and I think that's why we're not seeing much of him because we're not using that formation. And I could be completely wrong. I could be something else, but I think that's the only thing I can think of because you're right. Every time he's come on, he's been a big body and he's looked good. Paqueta, Gianpaolo doesn't like him. You know, he told him to be less Brazilian, which is pretty hard when you're Brazilian. So I don't know what that's about, but yeah, Paqueta needs to play every game, plain and simple. You're right. Although he does get a lot of yellow cards, and I think that just comes with him trying to be flashy, trying to be slick on the ball. Um, it is what it is. You know, expect your midfielders to get a suspension or two throughout the season. That's nothing abnormal in my opinion.
This Milan team has gotten 6 suspensions so far this season.
Yeah, we have the most red cards. We had let's go down the list because it's quite funny. So, first one was Calabria, right? Yeah, Calabria. Then Reina off the bench. Then Musacchio. Then Calabria again, and Castillejo off the bench. No, there's one more. There's one more, and I can't remember who it was. I don't know. We get too many red cards apparently.
Yep. How do you get a bench player a red card, man?
It's
I'm looking at
because
the
they're
archives.
barking a lot.
I'm looking at the archives of because they're angry, man. Gianpaolo sucks. Look at the archives of the last Serie A winners, man. Juventus owns this thing. Juventus and Inter both.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's why the Derby d'Italia is called the Derby d'Italia. They're historically the winningest sides, although they haven't won anything more recently than us. We've won a no, they won a Champions League after our last Champions League, but we won a league title more recently than them. We won a Super Cup more recently than them. I don't know about a Coppa Italia. I don't think we have, but Yeah, I mean, I think we're more successful than them, but they're well and above the better team currently, so I don't have an issue with that.
I have an issue with them being better. Hopefully that changes.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't have an issue with them being like considered in the Derby d'Italia
Right.
or any of that trash. All right, well, what else do we got? I think that's
it, man.
awesome. Well, I don't have anything to add. I know this is a bit of a shorter episode. You guys might be used to some long ones. Wasn't intentionally short. It was just because it was thrown together last minute. And again, I had zero notes because I had zero intention of being here today. That was on Ollie, who got sick. And then we actually plan on having one of our writers on with us as well because he has really good insight on the coaching situation. But that also didn't work out. So we're going to have him on at a later time. Maybe next week, maybe one after, who knows. But definitely looking to get more guests on here. A couple big things coming up that we'll announce in due time, but definitely been a blast. I've said definitely a lot right now, so I'm going to stop talking. Madison, anything you want to add before we close it?
No, man. I mean, this has been a good hour episode. I know we got a few complaints last week about having an hour and a half. I don't know. I liked it. I like talking for an hour and a half, so there's been a shorter episode. We normally have Oliver here who rambles, and AJ and I just kind of sit back and let him do his thing and chirp when we need to. And it's just the Oliver show, you know. It's just all about him. But when he's not here, we get to control it, and it's more fun. So just don't come back, Oliver.
More fun. I personally think I talk way too fucking fast when I'm hosting. I don't know, it's just nervous or something, but anyways, you guys don't need to hear my trials and tribulations. I'm just going to close this bad boy out. And thank you guys so much for listening. I've been your host, Anthony Torgard. You can find me on Twitter at Torgard45. And we also got Madison.
Yeah, you guys can go ahead and find me on Twitter at Madison_DT. And let us know what you guys like and dislike about the podcast. We are always open to constructive feedback.
Yeah, any feedback, even if you just want to tell me, go fuck myself. That's cool too. I'll fight you back. Like I will argue with you. That's something I enjoy doing, but feel free to do it. Yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you guys. Until next time, over and out.
Abate la rimette dentro, esce Radu, porta vuota. Gol! Gol! Abbiamo battuto il gatto nero! Li abbiamo battuti tutti, Alessio! Grande Alessio! È bella la vita! Lava quella zolla, Alessio! Lava quella zolla, Alessio!